Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I am going to be working in the next 3 videos using the Close to My Heart Daisy Meadows card making workshop. So I'm giving you a quick look here at everything that's included. This will make a total of 16 cards. So you get 16 bases and 16 envelopes, and then it comes with instructions and enough of supplies to make 4 different cards, and you'll be able to make 4 of each of those designs. So this is an exclusive stamp and die set that is included. You can only get this in this card workshop. I'm going to give you a look here. I love this gate that is included in with the dies. It was a lot of fun to play with, and you can combine it and move things around in lots of different ways to use that. There is a big bag here of wooden hearts. You will definitely have leftovers of these. And then here's the instruction sheet. So you can see the 4 different cards there, and it does give you detailed instructions on how to cut your paper to make a total of 16 cards. Now, what I will do actually is sort of split this in 2. I usually make 2 of each of the included designs, and then I use my leftovers to create some alternate ideas and designs for you guys in case you want to make something that's a little different. So there you see everything that's included, the papers, the pattern papers, the cardstock, and all of the extra goodies. So the first thing I'm going to do is sit down and cut out all of my individual pieces that I need. Now when I do this, I don't follow the cutting guide exactly. I'm going to cut out 2 of each of the pieces that I need rather than 4. So I go through and I cut, and I just make an X over those little markings there, so that I know that I've got 2 of each of the sizes that I need. And I usually start by trimming off my rip strip at the top there on all of the papers, and then move on from there. This plaid was one of my favorites included in with the patterns in this kit. I just think it is so pretty. Those pastel colors with that darker sort of teal blue mixed in just makes for a really pretty springy plaid. So just trimming everything out here. I have started to speed things up a little bit more, and I will cut to the first card here momentarily. So here I am getting everything cut out that I need. Now I know I'm gonna need lots of flowers, so I've laid out my gate here, and then I'm stamping sort of in the in-between places. I want to go ahead and run my die cuts through the least many times as possible, because it can be quite a bit of die cutting when you have lots of little flowers and things like that to add onto your card. But the nice thing is that they have included 4 of the die cuts for those roses, so you can get 4 of those done in one pass, which was really helpful. I'm going to line everything up here, hold that down with some microfilm tape, and then I will run that through my die cutting machine. Next, I'm going to grab one of my brushes. This was included, I think, in a Simon Says stamp kit a while back, and I've never really used it that much. Close to My Heart has some sponges that you can purchase, but since I had this in my stash, I thought I would give it a try, and I really did enjoy working with it. The more I use it, the more I like it. You'll see as the cards go on, I do pull this out more and more, and actually used it to eventually create a really pretty sunset blend. So I may end up picking up more of these, but I have found that if you wipe that off really well when you're done with each color, it really does not keep the color on the brush, so you are able to move from one color to the next without any problems. So here I have got my gate lined up here, and I've added some of the leaf stamps. I'm gonna pull in some of my, let's see, this is the Fern ink, and the Smoothie ink is what I used to brush onto the gate there. So I'm gonna go ahead and line these up and stamp that down, and I will do that all the way around the edge there of that semicircle around the top, or I guess it's an archway of my gate. And I'm being very careful here laying this down. I have made sure that I've measured using my blocks there, and I've got both in the same spot. That way I can kind of do this assembly line process, make it a little bit faster. I'm going to grab that brush again, use some of that Fern ink, and just create a little grass along the bottom of this panel. And then I'm going to grab the actual grass stamp. I put one on either side of my block just so I can easily flip between the two so I don't get too much of a pattern with the leaves or with the blades. And I'm just going to add those in a row along the bottom here. Again, these 4 cards today are the 4 that were included. The instructions are all there for me, telling me exactly what to do, how to put these together. Very easy to follow. It's great for those days when you want to craft something, but you don't necessarily feel like coming up with your own ideas. It's already laid out and ready for you. Along the top of my card base, I'm going to use this lattice design. Now, this was a little bit tricky. My head will get in the way here. I'm sorry about that. But I needed to make sure that my stamps were nice and lined up. So I put the first one down, and then I just made sure that the edge of the design was overlapping just on the very edge to make sure that I kept this in a nice straight line. So you see one ink is just a little bit darker there. You can't really tell once it dries though. And of course I will do that for both of my card bases. And it looks like I'm doing that along the bottom, but it actually will end up being along the top. It was just easier for me to stamp it that way. Added some art glitter glue here behind my little gateway, and I'll place that down on the smaller white panel. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. I am again going to use Close to My Heart ink. This is their Intense Black. Really nice, dark, crisp black color. Just making sure I get a nice crisp stamp of that. And then I'm going to pull in the additional little leaf stamps, add some of those around my archway. Now they have some larger leaves and some smaller leaves. I am only using the larger leaves. I actually found the smaller leaves a little bit later on, but you will see me use those on another card as well. There I'm just doing a shadow ink stamping where you stamp once off on some scrap paper and then stamp down on top of your card or your panel, and it'll give you just a lighter green color. I'm going to color my hearts, just rubbing the wooden heart on top of my Smoothie ink pad. I'll let those dry. I'm going to grab my panel, place this down on my trimmed out pink paper, just making sure I have the right side. The nice thing about the Close to My Heart cardstock is it is two-toned. So there's a lighter side and a darker side. So you're really getting a little bit more for your money, 2 options there that you can use. So for this one, I am using the darker pink side, just to create a little border there around that panel. And then I'm going to add some foam tape to the back to pop that up with some dimension. I'll peel away that backing and place that down on my card base. Make sure that's down nice and tight. And I'll do the same thing here with my second one. Lastly, we're going to add on our roses and our little hearts. So I'm going to use glue dots for the roses. I ended up actually just taking my roll here and I went ahead and just peeled that back, added all of my roses down, and then I'll pull off each one individually and pop those down on top of my card. And then again, I'll add 1 or 2 glue dots behind my heart and press that down into place as well. If your heart is still a little bit wet like mine was, you may want to use a paper towel so your fingers don't get stained. But that is the completed card, and this is the first design included with the instructions in the card kit. All right, on to card number 2. So here I am using some of the little labels that I have already trimmed out using the white cardstock that was included. I've grabbed in again that brush using a little Smoothie ink, but I am just wiping that off a bit before I rub that on so that it is a nice light pink color. I've got these 2 panels here that have been trimmed out. I'm gonna add some grass using my Fern ink. Again, just alternating, not every other one, but just trying to give this a different look. And then I'm also gonna pull in the 2 different leaf stem stamps, and I'll place those along the bottom as well. I do have the picture of the finished card that they have included pulled up, so I am generally stamping my leaves in the same places that they are, trying to keep this as accurate as I can. I'll go ahead and do that to both of my little panels here. And then I'm going to stamp some flowers. So again, this is that shadow ink technique. I'm going to stamp that off onto some scratch paper and then down on my panel so I get a nice light pink color. Then there is a little solid dot that is included in that, and I'm gonna go ahead, actually there's a solid one and there's a one that has some sort of speckles to it. I think I actually used the one that was speckled, and I did that with the darker pink so that would stand out. Here I'm blending 2 of my inks. I've got my Sunrise as well as Smoothie, and I'm using that yellow and pink there to sort of blend together to create a 2-tone look with my bird. You will get a closer look at that later on when I show you the finished cards. Gone ahead here, brushed on some of that Sundance ink, and I'm going to stamp out this dahlia flower using my intense black ink for that. And then I'm going to grab my little labels. This does come with a stamp to place a little frame on that. So I'm lining that up really carefully, making sure I've got that nice and even. Then I'm going to press that down into the bottom corner, making sure that's touching. So when I do my second one, I won't have to move my stamp again. And I'm going to again use my intense black ink for that. Press that down. And there we go. I've got my pattern paper panel here. I'll add some ATG, place that down on top of my card base. And then I'm going to use my ruler to make sure I have everything nice and lined up. I've got some smaller strips of the blue cardstock there. Making sure everything looks right with my measurements. And once I'm sure that that is even, I'll go ahead and place everything down. I did pull in some score tape from my stash just to make placing those smaller pieces down a little bit easier. I'll place the first one down using my ruler, and then everything else will fall right into line. I've got my little label here. I'm going to pop that up using some foam dots. Just double checking my instructions there. And then again, I'll add some glue dots to the back of my flowers. and pop those into place. Lastly, I'm going to stamp out some roses. That'll finish up my flowers there. I'm going to grab a few hearts from my bag, laying everything out, making sure it looks the way it's supposed to. I'm going to pull out my other two for the other card while I've got everything spilled out there on the table. And I will go ahead and glue everything into place. I added a little dot there on my bird just to give him an eye. And through the magic of editing, voila, we have both of our second design cards done. I did end up moving things around a little bit on that second one. I think I had a smudge or something. That's why I ended up doing that. So there's a little different idea of how you could do that second one if you wanted. All right, jumping here into card number 3. Again, working with one of these labels, I'm going to go ahead and stamp out this border using my intense black ink. And I'll stamp out my sentiment. Then I've got lots of little strips of cardstock and pattern paper, so I am going to add some score tape behind all of these. I have everything laid out the way that it's supposed to be, and then again, I will use my ruler to make sure that this is spaced out the way that it's supposed to be. Now, really, I think as long as you use your ruler to make sure it's straight, I don't think you really need to be as exact as I am on this, but because they give me the measurements and I like being exact, I will make sure that I'm measuring exactly the way that they have theirs laid out. And then we've got a few pieces that are going to go across horizontally, laying those out there, making sure that looks right. Gonna flag the edge here of my larger pink piece, and then I'll lay this yellow, this is part of the one of the rip strips along the bottom, just add that, making sure my diagonal matches there for the bottom of my flag. I'll add some ATG and get that pink piece pressed into place. Oh, nope, I'm gonna start with this one first because it's on the bottom. Again, adding some score tape there. And I will press that into place. And then add my pink piece on top there. In that bottom right hand corner, we're going to stamp a little cluster of flowers. Again, I am adding my grass, one on either side of my block there. I'll stamp that out using some Fern ink. And I'll add in a few of my leaf stems as well. Stamping in a few flowers, again using that shadow stamping technique. And then here's where I'm using that solid circle to create some little smaller flowers along the bottom there. And I'll finish up with that dotted circle and add some centers to my pink flowers. Stamped a few of some light yellow flowers behind there as well. And then I popped up my sentiment using some foam dots. I'm going to place that right in the center. And then off to the side, I've got two more of my wooden hearts. Once I get those positioned where I'd like them, I will add some art glitter glue and press those into place as well. And there are two finished cards using the included design number 3. Now, if you've watched me do these kits before, you'll notice that there are usually 2 more detailed designs and 2 more simple designs. They try to fit everybody's taste into these kits that they make. So we've done the first one, which was complicated. The second 2 were a little more simple, and now we're going into another complicated card. When I say complicated, I just mean more time consuming. They're not difficult to make. It just takes a little bit more time because it has more elements and more die cuts and things like that. So I am stamping out some flowers onto the white cardstock as well as the pink cardstock, and I'm stamping enough right now, again, to make 2 cards. So I want to do all my stamping and die cutting at the same time if I can. I've got some labels cut from the lighter portion of the pink cardstock, and I'm going to grab my banner here. Now I want to make sure that this is lined up properly, so I'm just going to test that out. There's no black left on it from the previous one that I had been stamping. So now that I know that's nice and clean, I will stamp my border on this. Again, I'll do that twice. And then I've also got my sentiment, and that I will stamp out using my intense black ink. Just making sure I get a nice crisp image there. I'm gonna press down on that and hold it. Sometimes even just holding the stamp there longer works better than actually pressing on it, just to let that ink really soak in onto your cardstock. I have taken my archway here and die cut that, and then just like in the first card, I went ahead and stamped those leaves around the border of that archway there. I have glued down some blue cardstock, some pink cardstock, and a little piece of pattern paper on the top of my card base. I'm sorry I missed that somehow in my editing, but just really simple, place that down on top of my card base to create that panel. And now I'm using the smaller leaves that are included, which make a little more sense with this, stamping that out using some Fern ink as well, just going along that archway. I'm gonna grab my 2 grass pieces. I will stamp those as well, going along the sides here. And then I'm grabbing in my leaf stems as well. going to pull in my scratch, and I will end up doing a little bit of shadow stamping here off to the side, just giving some variation to the colors. I have grabbed my black. I'm gonna shadow stamp that as well onto the top of my archway there, so he looks a little bit more gray than black, and added a little dot there for his eye. And then I've got all of my flowers to put in place. So once again, I'm just gonna take those, line them up here on my roll of glue dots. And then I will press everything into place. I'm gonna grab 2 hearts from my little packet here, and again I will pop my little label there up using some foam dots. Place that down in my archway there, and then glue my little heart as a little closure there to my gate. And that will complete card number 4. So these are the 4 cards, all the instructions included in with the kit. And I will be back in a part 2 and 3 giving you some additional ideas you can use, again using all of the same cardstocks and inks and dyes and everything that were included in this kit. Here are a few close-ups for you of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.